Tom Rivers wiped the sweat from his forehead as he crawled through the narrow maintenance tunnel beneath the mining station. The metal was hot from the planet's twin suns, and his tools clanged against the walls with each movement forward. He had been fixing broken pipes and damaged wiring for 12 hours straight, but that was normal life on Thyros Station. Everything broke down constantly in this harsh environment. The planet below them spun slowly, covered in purple crystal formations that sparkled like jewels. Those crystals were worth a fortune, which was why humans had built this mining operation in the first place. Tom had been working here for 3 years now, and he still found the view beautiful when he had time to look. He reached the damaged section and pulled out his repair kit. The pipe had a large crack running down its side, probably from the recent meteor shower. As he started welding, a strange sound filled his head. It was not exactly a voice, but something deeper and more ancient. "Help me," the sound whispered inside his mind. Tom stopped working and looked around the empty tunnel. There was nobody else here. The sound came again, clearer this time. "Please, someone must help me. My child is gone." Tom put down his welding tool and pressed his hands to his temples. Was he going crazy? Working too many long shifts in space could mess with a person's mind. But the voice felt real, desperate, and full of pain. "Who are you?" Tom whispered into the empty tunnel, feeling foolish. "You can hear me?" The voice in his head sounded shocked and hopeful at the same time. "Finally, someone who can hear me. I have been calling for so long." Tom's heart started beating faster. This was definitely not normal. "Are you real? Where are you?" "I am Corinth. I live in the crystal caves far below your station. I am what your people might call a dragon, though we are much older than your legends." A dragon? Tom almost laughed, but the sadness in the voice stopped him. Whatever was speaking to him was in terrible pain. "My cub was taken 3 days ago," Corinth continued. "Evil beings came in ships and captured him while he slept. I have called out to every mind I could reach, but you are the first to answer." Tom sat back against the tunnel wall. A dragon was talking to him telepathically, asking for help to save his child. Either he was having a complete mental breakdown, or his life had just become very strange. "Why can you only talk to me? Why, not the other species?" "I do not know," Corinth admitted. "Your kind is new to the stars. Perhaps your minds are still open to ancient ways of speaking. The others have built walls in their thoughts that keep us out." Tom thought about this. Humans had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago. Most of the alien species had been traveling space for thousands of years. Maybe they had learned to block telepathic voices, thinking they were just noise or dangerous. "Tell me about your cub," Tom said quietly. The answer came with images flooding into his mind. Tom saw a young dragon, smaller than a horse but with scales that shimmered like the purple crystals of Thyros. The dragon cub was playful and curious, exploring the deep caves with wonder in his bright blue eyes. Then the images turned dark. Ships appeared in the sky, firing stun weapons. The cub fell unconscious and was dragged away in metal cages. Tom felt Corinth's anguish as if it was his own. "His name is Scythe," Corinth said. "He is all I have left. My mate died long ago, and we are the last of our kind on this world." "Who took him?" Tom asked. "Poachers. They hunt rare creatures across the galaxy and sell them to collectors. Dragon scales are worth more than most planets because we are so few now." Tom had heard stories about illegal hunters who captured exotic animals from protected worlds. The Galactic Council had laws against it, but enforcement was weak in the outer systems where Thyros was located. "I will help you," Tom said, surprising himself with how quickly he made the decision. "You would do this? But you do not even know me." "A child was stolen from his parent. That's enough for me to know." Tom could feel gratitude flowing from Corinth's mind like warm sunlight. I can show you where they went. I felt Scythe's fear and followed it as far as my mind could reach. More images filled Tom's head. He saw a large ship hidden behind asteroids not far from Thyros. The ship was dark and unmarked, designed to avoid detection. Inside, he glimpsed rows of cages holding creatures from dozens of different worlds. And in the center cage, a small purple dragon lay curled up, his scales dim with sadness. "They are still close," Corinth said, "but I am old and weak. I cannot fly as I once did, and my fire has grown cold. I need someone young and clever to help me get Skith back." Tom stood up in the tunnel and gathered his tools. His mind was racing with plans. He would need help and he would need equipment. Luckily, he knew just the person to ask. "I have a friend who works security here. His name is Beck. Can you talk to him too?" "I will try, but your mind is the clearest I have found. Most humans I have touched felt only confusion. Beck is a good man. He will help us if he can hear you." Tom started crawling back toward the main station, moving faster than before. A dragon needed his help, and somehow that felt like the most important thing that had ever happened to him. He did not understand why he could hear Corinth when others could not. But maybe that did not matter. What mattered was that somewhere in the dark of space, a frightened young dragon was waiting for rescue, and his father had finally found someone willing to fight for him. Tom Rivers had spent 3 years fixing broken machines and damaged pipes. Now it was time to fix something that really mattered. Behind him in the tunnel, he thought he heard an ancient voice whisper, "Thank you, human, I will not forget this kindness." Beck Wilson was checking the security monitors when Tom burst into the control room looking like he had seen a ghost. Beck had known Tom for 5 years, ever since they both started working on Thyros Station, and he had never seen his friend, this excited and worried at the same time. "Beck, you are going to think I am crazy, but I need you to listen to me very carefully," Tom said, closing the door behind him. Beck turned away from the screens showing empty corridors and mining equipment. "What happened? You look like you ran here from the other side of the station." "Something is talking to me telepathically. A dragon named Corinth who lives in the caves below us. His child was kidnapped by poachers." Beck stared at his friend for a long moment. "Tom, when was the last time you slept? Last time you have been working double shifts for weeks. I know how it sounds, but this is real. Close your eyes and try to listen with your mind, not your ears." Beck wanted to argue, but Tom looked desperate. They had been through a lot together, including the time pirates attacked their supply convoy 2 years ago. Tom had saved Beck's life that day by thinking fast under pressure. If Tom said something was wrong, Beck would at least listen. Beck closed his eyes and tried to clear his thoughts. At first, there was nothing but the quiet hum of the station's machinery. Then, like a whisper from very far away, he heard something. "Beck. Wilson, friend of Tom Rivers. Can you hear my words?" Beck's eyes snapped open. "What the hell was that?" "That was Corinth. He is trying to reach you too." The voice came again, stronger this time. "I need your help, Beck Wilson. My cub Skith has been taken by those who hunt my kind for profit." Beck sat down heavily in his chair. He had seen a lot of strange things since humans started exploring space, but talking dragons were not on that list. "This is really happening, isn't it?" Tom sat across from him. "Corinth showed me where the poachers are hiding. They have a ship behind the asteroid field, maybe 6 hours' flight from here. You want to go after them? Tom, we are maintenance workers, not soldiers. We have mining equipment that could work as weapons, and you have security training." Beck thought about this. The mining lasers were powerful enough to cut through solid rock. The loader mechs could lift 10 tons each. With some modifications, they might actually have a chance. "Tell me everything," Beck said. Tom explained about hearing Corinth's telepathic calls and seeing the images of the captured dragon cub. As he talked, Beck felt the ancient voice touching his mind again, sharing the same desperate need to save an innocent child. "Why us?" Beck asked the dragon directly. "Why can humans hear you when other species cannot?" "I have wondered this myself," Corinth replied. "Perhaps it is because your people are still young among the stars. You have not yet learned to close your minds to possibilities." Beck had met plenty of aliens during his time on Thyros Station. The Vorthons who supervised the mining operations were efficient but cold. The insect-like Chitauri traders were focused only on profit. The few Zeltran diplomats he had encountered seemed to think humans were barely worth their attention. "Most of the older species act like they know everything already," Beck said to Tom. "Maybe that makes them deaf to new voices." "The poachers are led by a Vorthon named Wraith," Corinth continued. "He has been hunting rare creatures for decades. My people once numbered in the thousands across many worlds. Now we are scattered and few." Beck felt anger rising in his chest. He had always hated bullies, and someone who kidnapped children was the worst kind of bully. It did not matter if the child had scales instead of skin. "What do we need to do?" Beck asked. Tom pulled up a star chart on the security computer. "The poacher ship is hiding here, behind these 3 large asteroids. It is cloaked, but Corinth can sense his cub's location." "How many crew?" "Unknown, but they are not expecting anyone to find them." Beck studied the chart. The asteroid field was tricky to navigate, full of spinning rocks and unpredictable gravity. Wells, but he had flown patrol ships there before during routine security sweeps. "We would need a ship, weapons, and a plan," Beck said. "And probably some help." "I know someone who might join us," Tom said. "Nix, the pilot who runs supply runs between here and the inner planets. She owes me a favor from when I fixed her ship's life support system." Beck nodded. Nix was young, but skilled, and she had her own small cargo ship. More importantly, she did not like authority figures and would probably jump at the chance for an unauthorized rescue mission. "This is insane," Beck said. "We are talking about attacking an illegal operation run by professional criminals?" "But we are going to do it anyway?" Tom asked. Beck looked at his friend and felt the dragon's presence in his mind. Ancient and sad, but filled with hope. A parent was asking for help to save his child. That was simple enough to understand. "Yeah, we are going to do it," Beck said. "But we do this smart and careful. No heroic charges into danger." "Thank you, Beck Wilson," Corinth's voice whispered in his mind. "I will remember your kindness for all my remaining years." Beck stood up and started checking his security equipment. "Tom, go find Nix. Tell her we have a job that pays well and might get us in trouble with the Galactic Council." "That will just make her more interested," Tom said with a grin. As Tom left to find the pilot, Beck opened his weapons locker and started taking inventory. Stun rifles, plasma cutters, emergency oxygen masks, and portable shield generators. Not much against a ship full of poachers, but it would have to do. "Corinth," he said quietly, "we are coming for your boy. Just hang on a little longer." Nix's cargo ship drifted silently through the asteroid field, its engines powered down to avoid detection. The young pilot had painted her ship bright red with yellow stripes, but right now it was covered in a stealth coating that made it look like just another piece of floating rock. Tom floated near the observation window, connected to Corinth through their telepathic link. The dragon's mind felt stronger now that they were close to his cub, filled with both hope and worry. "The ship is directly ahead, behind the largest asteroid," Tom whispered to his companions. Corinth can feel Scythe's presence getting stronger. Beck checked his weapons one more time. They had modified 3 mining lasers to work as portable cannons, and Nix had rigged up some explosive charges from mining equipment. It was not much, but it would have to do. "I am picking up energy signatures," Nix said from the pilot's seat. "Big ship, maybe 3 times the size of mine. They have got some serious firepower." "How many crew?" Beck asked. Hard to tell with all the interference from the asteroids, but I count at least 12 life signs. Tom felt Corinth sharing more images with him. The dragon's mental sight could penetrate the poacher ship's hull, showing them what was inside. Rows and rows of cages filled the cargo hold, each one containing a different rare creature. There are dozens of animals in there, Tom said. Things I have never seen before. Some of them look really sick. Bastards, Nix growled. I hate poachers. Beck had worked out a simple plan during their 6-hour flight. The poacher ship had 2 main entry points, a cargo bay door, and a smaller airlock near the bridge. If they could get inside quietly and disable the crew, they might be able to free all the captured animals without a big fight. Remember, we want to avoid killing anyone if possible, Beck said. Stun them and tie them up. The Galactic Council can deal with them later. What if they do not want to be stunned? Nix asked. Then we protect ourselves and the animals. But let us try the peaceful way first. Tom felt another wave of images from Corinth. The old dragon was showing him the inside of the poacher ship, in perfect detail, including the locations of the crew members. Most of them are sleeping, Tom reported. Only 3 are awake, 2 in the cargo hold and 1 on the bridge. Nix brought her ship alongside the poacher vessel, matching its slow drift through the asteroid field. The magnetic clamps engaged with a soft thud, and they were connected. Beck opened the airlock and peered into the poacher ship. The corridor was dimly lit and empty. He gestured for the others to follow him, and they crept forward with their weapons ready. The first guard was easy. He was sitting in a chair reading something on a tablet, and Beck's stun rifle dropped him before he could make a sound. They tied him up and continued toward the cargo hold. The sound hit them as soon as Beck opened the door. Dozens of different creatures were crying, chirping, and howling in languages Tom could not understand. But he did not need to speak their languages to know they were afraid and in pain. The second guard was walking between the cages with a shock prod, poking at the animals to keep them quiet. Nix dropped him with a perfect shot from 30 feet away. Look at all of them, Tom whispered, staring at the rows of cages. There were bird-like creatures with rainbow feathers, small furry things that looked like living teddy bears, and something that might have been a baby whale with glowing spots along its sides. In the center of it all was a cage twice the size of the others, and inside was Scythe. The young dragon looked exactly like Corinth had shown them, with purple scales that sparkled even in the dim light. But his scales were dull now, and his bright blue eyes were closed. He was barely breathing. Is he alive? Beck asked. Tom reached out with his mind, trying to make contact with the cub the way he did with Corinth. There was something there, weak and frightened, but alive. Scythe, Tom called gently with his thoughts. I am here to help you. Your father sent me. The young dragon's eyes opened slowly. When he saw Tom, he tried to stand up but was too weak. Papa? Scythe's mental voice was small and scared. Your papa is waiting for you. We are going to get you out of here. Beck was already working on the cage lock with his plasma cutter. The metal began to glow and melt away. Behind them, Nix was opening other cages and helping the smaller creatures escape. Tom, Beck said quietly, we have a problem. Tom looked up from comforting Scythe and saw what Beck was pointing at. On the wall near the door was a control panel covered in blinking red lights. One of them was flashing faster than the others. Security alarm, Nix said from across the room. Someone knows we are here. As if her words had summoned them, voices echoed from the corridor outside. Heavy footsteps were running toward the cargo hold. How many? Beck asked, raising his weapon. Too many, Tom said, feeling Corinth's mind touch his. The old dragon was sharing what he could see from far away. At least 8 of them, and they have heavy weapons. Beck looked around the cargo hold. There was only one way out, and the poachers were coming through it. They were trapped. Can that dragon cub fly? Nix asked. Tom looked at Scythe, who was now standing but still shaky. Can you fly, little one? A little, Scythe replied. But I am very weak. That might be enough, Beck said. He pointed at a large vent opening high on the wall. If he can get up there and open it from the inside, we might have another way out. Tom helped Scythe out of his cage, just as the first poacher appeared in the doorway. The Vorthon was tall and covered in gray scales, with cold yellow eyes and a weapon that looked like it could cut through a spacesuit. Put down your weapons, the poacher growled. You are all under arrest for theft of valuable cargo. We are not stealing anything, Tom called back. We are freeing kidnapped children, the Vorthon laughed. Animals are not children, human. They are property. Beck's stun rifle spoke first, but the poacher had body armor that absorbed most of the blast. He staggered, but did not fall. More poachers appeared behind him, and the cargo hold erupted in weapons fire. Tom grabbed Scythe and dove behind a stack of empty cages as laser bolts flew overhead. The freed animals were screaming and running in all directions, adding to the chaos. Scythe, Tom said urgently, can you reach that vent? The young dragon looked up at the opening 20 feet above them. His wings spread wide, showing patches where scales had been torn away by the poachers. I will try, Scythe said, and launched himself into the air. He made it halfway before his strength gave out, but Nyx was ready with a boost from her magnetic grappler. The cable caught Scythe around the waist and pulled him up to the vent opening. Now what? Beck shouted over the sound of weapons fire. Tom felt Corinth's presence growing stronger in his mind. The old dragon was coming, flying as fast as his ancient wings could carry him. But he was still too far away to help. They were on their own, trapped in a cargo hold with angry poachers and dozens of frightened animals. Tom looked at his friends and realized that sometimes being human meant doing impossible things anyway. We hold them off until help arrives, Tom said, checking his weapon. And we protect these animals no matter what. The vent cover crashed down into the cargo hold as Scythe pushed it open from inside. Fresh air flowed in, carrying with it something that made the poachers stop shooting and look around nervously. Tom felt it too through his connection with Corinth. Ancient power was approaching fast, and it was very angry. What is that sound? One of the Vorthon poachers whispered. It started as a low rumble that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The metal walls of the ship began to vibrate, and some of the smaller animals stopped crying to listen. Then the rumble became a roar that shook the entire vessel. Corinth had arrived. The old dragon's massive form appeared outside the cargo hold's viewport, his scales gleaming purple and silver in the light of the distant stars. He was larger than Tom had imagined, easily the size of Nyx's entire ship. His eyes blazed with fury as he saw his cub trapped inside the poacher vessel. Impossible, the lead poacher gasped. The old one was supposed to be too weak to leave his caves. You took his child, Tom said, standing up from behind the cages with his weapon ready. Did you really think he would not come for him? Corinth's roar came again, and this time it was answered by Scythe's smaller voice from the vent above. The young dragon was calling to his father, and the relief in both their mental voices was overwhelming. The poacher ship shuddered as Corinth grabbed it with his massive claws. His ancient strength was still great enough to stop the vessel's movement and hold it steady among the asteroids. Open fire on the dragon, the lead poacher shouted to his crew. Kill it before it damages the ship. Several of the Vorthans turned their weapons toward the viewport, but Beck was ready for them. His stun rifle dropped 2 of them before they could shoot, and Nyx's explosive charges sent the others diving for cover. Outside, Corinth began tearing at the ship's hull with his claws, trying to reach his cub. But the metal was thick and reinforced, designed to hold valuable cargo secure. He cannot get through, Tom realized. The hull is too strong. That was when the lead poacher, a scarred Vorthon named Wraith, pulled out a device that made Tom's blood run cold. It was small and black, covered in warning symbols that meant only one thing. Quantum bomb, Beck breathed. That thing could destroy this entire asteroid field. Wraith smiled coldly. If I cannot have my cargo, then no one can. Have anything. I will give you 60 seconds to surrender, or I will detonate this device and take the dragon with us. Tom felt panic from both dragons as they sensed the terrible weapon. Corinth's claws stopped scraping at the hull, and Scythe whimpered from the vent above. You are insane, Nick said. That bomb will kill you too. I have an escape pod, Wraith replied. Do you? Tom reached out with his mind, trying to think of a solution. Corinth was too old and weak to contain a quantum explosion. Scythe was too young and untrained, but maybe working together. Scythe, Tom called telepathically, can you breathe crystal fire like your father? A little, the young dragon replied, but I do not know how to control it. I will help you. Connect your mind to mine the way your father does. Tom felt Scythe's consciousness touch his, uncertain and afraid. The young dragon's power was raw and unfocused, like lightning looking for a place to strike. What are you doing? Corinth asked, his ancient mind joining the connection. Teaching your son something new, Tom replied. Humans are good at learning quickly and adapting to strange situations. Maybe we can teach dragons to do the same. Eighth was counting down from 30 seconds, his finger hovering over the bomb's activation switch. Around the cargo hold, the freed animals huddled together, sensing the danger even if they could not understand it. Tom opened his mind completely to Skith, sharing not just thoughts but human knowledge of focus and control. He showed the young dragon how humans learn to use tools, how they broke complex problems into simple steps. Crystal fire is not just about breathing hard, Tom explained. It is about shaping energy with your will. Feel the power inside you, then give it direction and purpose. 20 seconds. Scythe dropped down from the vent, his scales beginning to glow with inner light. The young dragon's eyes were still frightened, but there was determination there too. What do you need me to do, Tom? When the bomb explodes, breathe your fire in a circle around us. Make a shell of crystal energy that will contain the blast until it burns itself out. 10 seconds. I have never done anything like that before. Neither have I, Tom admitted. But we are going to do it anyway because that is what families do for each other. 5 seconds. Tom felt Corinth's pride and fear mixing together as he watched his cub prepare to attempt something impossible. The old dragon wanted to help, but he knew his strength was failing. I believe in you, my son, Corinth whispered. Wraith pressed the button. The quantum bomb activated with a flash of white light that turned everything invisible for a moment. Tom felt the terrible energy beginning to expand, seeking to unmake everything it touched. Now, Scythe! The young dragon drew in a deep breath and exhaled a stream of crystalline fire that sparkled like liquid diamonds. But instead of shooting, straight ahead the fire curved and twisted under Tom's mental guidance, forming a sphere around the explosion. Tom had never felt anything like it. His consciousness was merged with Scythe's, human knowledge combining with dragon power to create something neither species could achieve alone. The crystal fire held the quantum energy like a cage made of solidified starlight. The bomb's explosion pressed against their defenses, trying to break free and destroy everything. For a terrible moment, Tom thought they were going to fail. The young dragon was trembling with effort, and the crystal shell was starting to crack. Then Corinth's ancient wisdom joined their connection, showing them how to weave the fire more tightly, how to make it stronger by working together instead of fighting alone. The explosion contained itself, burning bright and hot, but trapped within Scythe's crystal fire. Slowly, very slowly, the terrible energy began to fade as it consumed itself, with nothing left to destroy. When the light finally died away, the cargo hold was filled with floating crystal dust that sparkled like tiny stars. The bomb was gone, and so was most of the ship's interior wall. But they were all alive, Wraith stared at them in shock. That is impossible. No one can contain a quantum explosion. Humans can, Tom said, helping Scythe to his feet. Especially when they have friends to help them. Beck stunned the remaining poachers, while Nyx helped the freed animals move toward the hole that Corinth had torn in the hull. The old dragon was waiting outside, his eyes bright with joy and pride. "My son," Corinth whispered as Scythe flew into his father's embrace. "You have learned to fly among the stars." Tom watched the reunion and felt something warm and bright growing in his chest. He had helped save a family, and in doing so, he had discovered that the bonds between species could be stronger than anyone imagined. But their adventure was not over yet. Ships were approaching from the direction of Thyros Station, and Tom recognized the energy signatures of Galactic Council patrol vessels. Someone had been monitoring their communications, and now the whole galaxy was about to learn that humans could talk to dragons. 3 days later, Tom stood in the main conference room of Thyros Station, facing a panel of the most important beings in the galaxy. Admiral Stone of the human fleet sat beside Ambassador Vale of the Galactic Council, while representatives from a dozen other species watched through holographic displays. Corinth and Scythe floated outside the station's main viewport, their massive forms casting shadows across the meeting room. The sight of living dragons had caused quite a stir among the alien dignitaries. "Let me understand this correctly," Ambassador Vale said, her forearms gesturing in the formal patterns of her people. "You claim that humans can communicate telepathically with an extinct species that has not been seen for over 1,000 years. "Dragons are not extinct," Tom replied calmly. "They have been hiding, calling for help that no one could hear until now." "Convenient," muttered the Vorthan trade representative. "Just as this species becomes valuable again, humans suddenly discover they can talk to them." Admiral Stone leaned forward. "Are you suggesting this is some kind of fraud? We have 17 different sensor recordings of the dragon containing a quantum explosion. No known technology can do that." Through the viewport, Scythe pressed his massive head against the transparent aluminum, looking directly at Tom. The young dragon's mental voice was quiet but clear. "They do not believe you, do they?" "Some of them do not want to believe," Tom replied telepathically. "It changes too many things they thought they knew." Beck and Nyx sat at the back of the room, along with the freed animals they had rescued from the poachers. The Galactic Council had wanted to study the creatures, but Corinth had insisted they be returned to their home worlds first. It was hard to argue with a dragon. "The question before us," Ambassador Vale continued, "is what to do with this new information. If humans truly can communicate with dragons, it changes the balance of power in our galaxy." "We do not want power," Tom said. "We want to help species that have been forgotten or ignored." Noble words, the Chitauri observer clicked through her translator device. "But humans have been expanding rapidly since joining the galactic community. This gives you access to creatures of immense power." Outside, Corinth's ancient eyes fixed on the meeting room. His mental voice reached not just Tom, but everyone in the room who was willing to listen. "For 1,000 years, my people have watched the younger races build their empires," the old dragon said. "We have seen worlds burned and species enslaved in the name of progress. We chose to hide rather than fight." Several of the alien representatives shifted uncomfortably. The dragon's words carried weight that came from centuries of experience. "But hiding did not save us," Corinth continued. "We grew few and scattered, easy prey for those who hunt rare things. My son would have died in a cage if not for the humans who heard my call." Ambassador Vale's translator worked to convert the dragon's telepathic communication into her species' clicking language. "What do you propose, Ancient One?" "An alliance," Corinth replied. "Humans will speak for those who have no voice in your councils. In return, my people will share what we have learned in our long years among the stars." Tom felt a surge of excitement from Scythe. "We could explore together, Tom. Father says there are dragons on dozens of worlds, all hiding and afraid. We could find them and tell them it is safe to come out. The Galactic Council cannot simply approve such an arrangement, the Zeltran diplomat protested. There are laws and procedures that must be followed. Your laws did not protect my son, Corinth said, and his mental voice carried an edge of ancient anger. Your procedures did not stop the poachers who have hunted my kind for sport and profit. Admiral Stone stood up. With respect to the Council, humanity formally requests permission to establish a joint patrol force with the dragons. We will focus on protecting endangered species and stopping illegal hunting operations. You want to become the galaxy's police force? The Vorthan representative sneered. We want to become the galaxy's friends, Tom said. Every species has value, whether they are useful for trade or not. Through the viewport, more shapes appeared in the darkness of space. Dragons were coming, drawn by Corinth's call and the news that someone had finally heard their voices. They came in ones and twos at first, then in small groups. Some were ancient, like Corinth, others young, like Scythe. All of them had stories of hiding and loss. The alien representatives watched in growing amazement as nearly 50 dragons gathered around Thyros Station. It was the largest gathering of the species in over a millennium. This is unprecedented, Ambassador Vale whispered, her 4 eyes wide with shock. We thought there were perhaps a dozen dragons left in the entire galaxy. You thought wrong, said a new voice in everyone's minds. An ancient female dragon, even larger than Corinth, drifted into view. Her scales were deep blue-black, like the space between stars, and her eyes held the wisdom of ages. I am Valara, eldest of the crystal dragons of the Andromeda border. We have been watching this meeting with great interest. Tom felt his mind stretching to accommodate so many dragon voices at once. Each one was different, carrying memories and experiences from across the galaxy. Some had been hiding in asteroid fields, others in the cores of dead planets. All of them had been alone for far too long. The question is not whether humans can speak with us, Valara continued. The question is whether the galactic community is ready to accept what that means. And what does it mean? Admiral Stone asked. Scythe answered, his young voice clear and strong. It means the Forgotten Ones have found their voice. Every creature that has been hunted, captured, or ignored now has someone who will listen. Through the station's sensors, Tom could see more ships arriving. Not just dragons now, but other rare species that had been thought extinct or mythical. Crystalline whale songs echoed through space as massive creatures emerged from the gas giants' upper atmosphere. Tiny light beings danced between the asteroids, their forms barely visible to normal sensors but bright as stars to dragon sight. Word travels fast among the outcasts, Corinth observed. They sense that something has changed, that they no longer need to hide. The Vorthan representative was frantically working his communication device. This is chaos. We cannot simply overturn centuries of established galactic law because one species claims to hear voices. We are not overturning anything, Tom said calmly. We are filling in the gaps that everyone else missed. Beck stood up from the back of the room. I have been listening to these dragon voices for 3 days now. They are not asking for special treatment or territory. They just want their children to be safe. And what children they are, Nyx added, grinning as she watched a young dragon barely larger than a house cat tumble playfully through zero gravity outside the viewport. Some of these little ones are the last of their species. Without protection, they will be extinct in a generation. Ambassador Vale looked around the room at her fellow representatives. Most of them seemed overwhelmed by the implications of what they were witnessing. A few, like the Chitauri observer, were already calculating the economic potential of dragon partnerships. The Council will need time to deliberate, Vale said finally. This is not a decision we can make lightly. Time is something we have little of, Valara replied. Even as we speak, poacher fleets are moving toward systems where our young ones hide. The criminal networks know that dragons are gathering and they see opportunity for profit. Tom felt a chill of fear from several of the younger dragons. They had come out of hiding to answer Corinth's call, but that made them vulnerable to the same hunters who had captured Scythe. "Then we do not wait for permission," Tom said, surprising himself with his boldness. "Beck, Nix and I can organize. Patrols starting tomorrow. We have mining equipment that can be converted to defensive systems." 3 humans against the galaxy's criminal organizations? The Zeltran diplomat laughed. "That is suicide." 3 humans and 50 dragons, Tom corrected. "Plus however many more join us when they hear we are fighting back." Admiral Stone smiled. "Make that 3 humans, 50 dragons, and the full support of the human defense fleet. If the Council wants to debate, they can do it while we are saving lives." The room erupted in protests and arguments as the various alien representatives tried to maintain order, but Tom was no longer listening to them. His attention was focused on the telepathic network that connected him to dozens of dragon minds, each one sharing locations of hidden colonies and threatened younglings. "There is so much work to do," Scythe said, his excitement infectious. "Worlds to explore, voices to hear, families to reunite." "Then we better get started," Tom replied. 6 months later, Tom stood on the bridge of the first Human-Dragon Alliance patrol ship, watching as Scythe soared through the rings of a distant planet. The young dragon had grown stronger and more confident, his scales now gleaming with health and happiness. Below them, a colony of refugees from a dozen different species was building new homes among the crystal formations. It was the 15th such sanctuary they had established, places where the Forgotten Ones could live without fear of hunters or collectors. "Contact on long-range sensors," Beck reported from his station. "Looks like another poacher vessel trying to sneak into the system." "Should we hail them and give them a chance to surrender?" Nix asked from the pilot's seat. Tom smiled as he felt Corinth's ancient amusement touch his mind. The old dragon was resting in the ship's specially built Dragon Bay, but his consciousness was always present during their patrols. "Ask Scythe if he wants to practice his containment techniques," Tom said. "Some people only learn when they see dragon fire up close." Outside the bridge viewport, Scythe turned toward the approaching poacher ship, his eyes blazing with righteous anger. The young dragon had not forgotten his time in the cage, and he took personal satisfaction in stopping others from sharing that fate. The poacher ship changed course immediately when they saw the dragon approaching. They had learned, as word spread through the criminal networks, that humans and dragons working together were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. "Another successful patrol," Tom said, settling back in his command chair. "Corinth, any word from the Council about our latest proposal?" "They are still debating," the old dragon replied with mental laughter. "But while they talk, more species join our alliance every day. Soon they will have no choice but to accept what we have built." Tom nodded, watching the stars wheel slowly past as their ship continued its patrol route. The galaxy was a big place, full of voices that had gone unheard for too long. But humans were good listeners, and dragons were excellent at helping those voices carry across the void. Together they were writing a new chapter in galactic history, one rescue at a time.